All right, we are live. What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman. I decided, of course, I'm trying to stay, relatively consistent, going live after some of the primetime games, and sometimes, we're not gifted with the best of options to go live after with. We've had some better primetime games to talk about over the last week and a half or so. And now we're talking about another Thursday. I haven't gone live after a Thursday night game yet. And, I very clearly can see why that may be because, dear God, as we all know, these games have been putrid, is a very good word for it. Putrid, boring, just no excitement. The product that the NFL insists on putting on Thursday Night Football prime time, Amazon just purchased the space and they're putting these matchups together. It's I would be mad if I was Amazon. Like they have to be getting like ridiculously low ratings in comparison to the rest of the games like every week. They have to be. There's no way that Amazon competes with regular ratings for the NFL when these are the games that they are getting put on Thursday night. There's just no other. There's just no way. I mean, this game was just the epitome of football. There was no good to take from what we witnessed in tonight's game. There, if you're looking at it from a Carolina Panthers perspective, your tank is suddenly pushed back again because you get another victory in a game that you probably shouldn't, and you're competing for the NFC South title when you should probably be in all reality competing for Bryce Young. And then you look at the Falcons on the other hand, and I mean, what even are the Falcons? I mean, some swear Arthur Smith knows what he's doing. And, we'll get into that in a little bit because I have plenty to say regarding Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons. But, Marcus Mariota might be he might be lucky to be considered a top 45 quarterback after that performance. I mean, he just acted like he never played the game before. Some of the decisions he was making. I mean, it looked like he was a rookie. He looked like a kid that was grabbed off the streets in front of a grocery store that they needed to play quarterback for tonight. And they plugged him in there. I mean, that's literally what he looked like. This kid won the Heisman. I mean, we're talking about a guy in college that was considered the best player at the college level when he played, and he's making these types of decisions that really you're scratching your head, and he's just not. I mean, some play designs, to Arthur Smith's credit, they seem to be, somewhat trying to play to Marcus Mariota's strengths, but on the other hand, too. I mean, Mariota's just not cooperating. I mean, Mariota's not, rolling out when he should. He's not escaping the pocket when he should. He's not bailing out. He's not using his athleticism. I mean, there's just so much wrong with what we witnessed tonight, and I can't get over the fact that I sat there and watched the whole damn thing. And the worst part is I put money on it, and I keep doing this shit to myself. And that's part of the reason why I'm so amped up, because I fall for these traps. I don't know why. What in God's name is compelling me to think that putting money on these games is a good idea? But I need to learn my lesson. Raleigh, nice to see you, man. That was just boring and painful to watch. I mean, that is such an understatement. Painful is a good word, but there's got to be a stronger word for painful, because I was sitting back on my couch watching this game, and I'm delusional, but I don't think I'm delusional enough to the point where I'll be making ridiculous statements regularly and people don't take me seriously. But I genuinely think if I were to have stepped in for a couple of snaps for Mariota, I would have had the awareness to realize, okay, you know what? Maybe I should leave the pocket now and run and use my legs like I probably, am supposed to in these situations. And Mariota just looked, he looked lost, It just didn't make sense. I mean, frustrating, painful football was on display. NFC South is a head scratcher. Everything about the NFC South is ass backwards, from the Bucks being in the lead, or I don't even know if they're actually in the lead of the division after that, but from the Bucks struggling the way they are, the Saints, of course, they've dealt with their fair share of injuries and have not lived up to expectations. The Saints are the only team in that division that I think have a legit excuse for underperforming. I mean, the Falcons and the Panthers, we expected to be bad. But I think, at least for the Falcons' sake, they don't seem to help themselves. Whereas, the Bucks have no excuse at this point. They're struggling, in so many different facets. We look at the Saints, like I said, I think they have a legit reason. The Falcons, honest to God, probably could be a slightly better team if Their personnel was utilized a little bit better. And then you got the Panthers, who are, trying to win their way away from Bryce Young. That's going to come back to haunt them. A team that turned down 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns, as well as a first-rounder for DJ Moore, eventually working their way toward a, maybe like a 5th or 6th pick instead of a 1 or 2, because they're winning these useless games, these useless interdivisional matchups. I mean, if I was a Panthers fan right now, I would be miserable. I would be ultra miserable, man. I mean, just imagine being a Panthers fan right now. Imagine you go to the trade deadline, you're expecting there to be a fire sale. You trade away Christian McCaffrey, you get a good package there, and you're expecting some other key pieces to maybe be shipped out the door to accelerate this rebuild. And other than that, it's McCaffrey that goes, and that's about it. To my knowledge, and they, like I said, they turned down 3 first-rounders combined. Regardless of what years they would have been in, they still turned down 3 premium selections, and they remain with a guy. And I like Brian Burns. I think he's probably a top 12 player at his own position. But in a game like tonight, Brian Burns was invisible. Brian Burns, at least from a big play standpoint, he was not making any sort of difference for the Carolina Panthers. He probably was drawing a bit of attention on the exterior, and allowing for like Marquise Haynes to go nuts and explode off the edge. But other than that, I mean, he really didn't do very much. They just cling on to these cornerstone pieces that aren't going to turn the ship around as much as I think they're kind of hoping they do. I thought Brian Burns was maybe the only player at the deadline that should have been off the table for the Panthers, but you get offered that type of return. I don't think there's any way in hell you could turn that down. And the Falcons, I mean, what's it going to take for Arthur Smith to kind of wake up and smell the roses here? There are some experts out there that swear up and down that he knows what he's doing and he's putting this team in a successful spot to win. But all I see is a guy that, he just doesn't know how to utilize his personnel, man. I mean, Cordero Patterson in this game. Cordero Patterson's their best, probably the 3rd best playmaker outside of Kyle Pitts and Drake London now. And, he's easily their best running back. I mean, no question. Granted, he's, slowly being worked back off of an injury, but I mean, he was out-touched by almost every other running back on this roster. Caleb Huntley had 5 touches. I think it's Avery Williams had 4. Tyler Algier had 8. Patterson had 5 himself. And he was running well. I mean, he was getting yards after contact. He was getting hit at the line of scrimmage and still fighting through. He popped one. He, reversed field when his direction was cut off, and he switched the field, and he was able to gain about 10. I mean, he looked good. And, even on passing downs, the guy wasn't in there to be a threat. I mean, he was occasionally, but I just don't get it. My head, it hurts from watching that. These past 2 games and Josh injuries had a lot of us Bills fans down in the dumps, but just watch any Thursday night game. It's like a splash of water of how lucky we are. Yeah, I mean, honest to God, it does put things into perspective. We're sitting here struggling with injuries. We lost the Jets in a heartbreaker and everything, but we really have to be grateful for how good of a situation we truly are in. Because, like I was saying, if I was a Panthers fan right now, I think the Panthers are probably in the worst scenario possible at the moment. I mean, I think the Panthers are in a really bad spot. I think the Colts, no, I won't throw the Colts in there. I think the Panthers are in a terrible spot. The Raiders are in a very bad spot too. Who else is in just a brutal spot? I mean, there's a couple other teams that are in the best of positions. But I mean, if you're the Raiders, you've had draft pick after draft pick, first rounder after first rounder, cut, released, traded, not impactful. Just gone off your roster within the last 5 years. I mean, the list is huge. I saw a tweet about it the other day. From Henry Ruggs to Clinton Farrell to Jonathan Abram. I mean, all these players the Raiders have drafted all have been non-factors. These are supposed to be your foundational pieces, and they've become nothing more than just problematic locker room cancers. And they're out the door. I mean, and now they're in a spot where they just traded for Devontae Adams, trying to compete with the rest of the conference and garner the talent they felt was necessary to compete. And they have 2 wins. They have 2 wins. Derek Carr's looking, in my opinion, worse than he has in a long time. I've been a big Derek Carr advocate, but there's, only so much, I guess, the guy can overcome. I mean, Derek Carr is trying, and he's overcome a lot of adversity in his career. And I don't think this year's any different. It's just, for some reason, something's not clicking with him. I think, Josh McDaniels has a lot to do with this disaster class that's going on with Las Vegas. That team's lost, man. But yeah, as far as the Bills go, as much as it sucks to lose the game to the Jets and look ugly against the Packers for 2 quarters, and have Josh's, availability up in the air come Sunday. Of course, that sucks, but he's not out for the year. It's not been stated that he's going to be out for multiple games. We don't have it as bad as some of these other franchises do. I mean, I think the Panthers are eternally doomed with the way they're going. Like, that's a genuine statement. They are eternally doomed. I wonder what the draft order looks like right now, or at least what it looked like prior to today's game. I want to see if I can look this up real quickly. Current 2023 NFL draft order. Draft order 2023. All right, let's see what this is looking like right now. Tankathon, the www.tankathon.com. That's funny. It's my computer slowly loads. Josh McDaniels for sure is the problem. I drafted Pitts in fantasy for some stupid reason, so I'm hurting for a tight end. I can't tell you how many teams I drafted Kyle Pitts on, with the hopes that he could be, a league winner, explode. Dude had 1,000 yards last year. Had high hopes, and of course, it's just like yourself. It's been a disappointment, and there have been a few draft picks I've had this season for fantasy that are tanking my teams, and they're all staying afloat, but they're struggling because the top selections that were supposed to be holding this team up are not doing their part. Looking at the Tankathon, the 2023 draft order, let's take a look at this together real quick. We're going to share a screen. Here it is. This is what the Tankathon is looking like right now. The Panthers, holy shit, right here at 5. Is that including their win tonight? Yeah, it has to be. 2-6, 3-7. Yeah, that has to be right. So right now, they have the 5th overall pick. Yeah, that has to be right? 10 weeks? Am I going nuts? Yeah, it's 10 weeks. Okay, so that is correct. They already updated this. So they have the 5th overall pick right now. Let's see what their schedule is looking like for the remainder of the year. Panthers schedule. I don't like the Google thing. All right, so they have next week. Okay, they get Baltimore next week. So Baltimore, Denver, Seattle, all of those games you would like to think are going to be losses for them. Pittsburgh, Detroit, though, those are 2 games that I could see going in their favor. They've already beat the Bucs once, although I don't think it happens again. The Saints, another game that could be up in the air. But, I think to get a top pick, you're going to have to end up with, I don't think you can get more than 4 wins if you want a top 2 pick. I think that's a genuine statement with the way some of these teams are running right now. Like, if the Carolina Panthers get to 4 wins, maybe even 5, I think they'd be lucky to have a pick within the top 5, and they're only 2 wins away from that. So yeah, the Carolina Panthers are in eternal doom hell, and like I mentioned, they turned down 3 first-round picks at the trade deadline, and some people swear that was a good idea. Let's talk about the Falcons for a second, because I really want to get my frustration out and kind of air my grievances with Arthur Smith. I want to kind of have a one-on-one conversation with Arthur Smith and kind of explain to him, what I'm dealing with emotionally when I watch his football team play games. What are you doing? Like, hypothetically, if you were Arthur Smith, this is how the conversation would go from my perspective. Do you know who you have out wide? Do you know what kind of height advantage you have at the pass catching position? Do you know what you have in your backfield, the dynamic playmaker? Do you know? Do you understand that Cordero Patterson got out-touched by Tyler Algier, nearly out-touched by Caleb Huntley this week against the Carolina Panthers? One of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and you are giving your best running back 5 touches on the ground. You are throwing Kyle Pitts. Granted, Kyle Pitts saw about 8 targets. They were pretty much almost all uncatchable. He made one amazing catch that was way over his head. This dude's 6'6", and he's being missed. None of these plays are being drawn up for Kyle Pitts, Arthur. Like, these plays need to be tailored toward Kyle Pitts. Plays need to be tailored for Drake London. People are swearing up and down that you know what you're doing. But until you show me that you know how to utilize your personnel, that you know how to put your playmakers in the best position to be successful, to help out your extremely struggling quarterback, I don't believe for a second that Arthur Smith is a good coach. I'm not. I'm not going to buy it. I don't care what kind of DVOA metric you throw at me. I don't care what EPA per play metric you throw at me. Those are important statistics, but it only goes so far. You know, the numbers to me, I've never been a huge numbers guy, and that dates all the way back to when I started making content on this channel. I've never been a huge numbers guy. I've had to adapt to the way the NFL is trending and the way media looks at the game and how we evaluate players. But, you know, there gets to a point where the numbers only tell so much of a story. You have to look at what Arthur Smith is doing. So, yeah, he might be, you know, making the most of Marcus Mariota on a week-to-week basis, but that's with who he puts on the field or how he utilizes what's on the field around Mariota. If he, you know, I think there are much better ways to utilize Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Cordero Patterson, who just came off of injury, to help Marcus Mariota, who looked like a struggling pedestrian in the pocket today. And for some reason, these guys aren't getting the ball's not getting in their hands quick. They're not getting, you know, the ball in situations in which play to their strengths. Cordero Patterson's not getting screen passes. Kyle Pitts isn't getting crossers. Yeah, granted, he did have a couple. But my point being, you know, you got a quarterback that sucks. He's mobile, but he sucks. You have three guys on the offensive side of the ball that can do more than enough to help him. You look at Brian Daboll with the New York Giants. This is the best example in the NFL right now, and there's a couple others too. But Brian Daboll with the New York Giants is Daniel Jones under center. Going into the year, I don't think anybody would have told you that they had that much more confidence that Daniel Jones was a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota. I mean, they probably fell under the same umbrella prior to week one. But Brian Daboll is sitting 6-2 with Daniel Jones and his best playmakers, Saquon Barkley. Meanwhile, they have Kenny Golladay pretty much being dead money to them. Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard got hurt. They traded away Kadarius Toney. Wan'Dale Robinson slowly coming around. But the New York Giants are a perfect example of what the Atlanta Falcons should be offensively. A team that can move the ball with what they have. A team that is creative enough to get the ball in the hands of their best playmakers. Saquon Barkley is putting that team on his back, and he's carrying them to every single victory they've had up to this point. But Daniel Jones, it's not to be shorted that Daniel Jones is doing his job. Daniel Jones is making the throws he has to, and Brian Daboll has made the job easy enough for him to do so. Arthur Smith has Marcus Mariota, who, like I mentioned, probably fell under the same umbrella as Daniel Jones prior to week one. And they also have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Cordero Patterson, you know, and I would even argue a guy like Damiere Byrd and Olamide Zaccheaus are pretty solid options in comparison to David Sills and whoever else that Daniel Jones is throwing to. I can't even remember some of the guys off the top of my head. That's just how thin they are there. And Arthur Smith just isn't able to figure it out, man. So there's got to be discourse had with this man, and it just can't go as far as EPA per play or DVOA. It can't. There has to be a fine line drawn between where statistics only tell so much of the story. I mean, I saw multiple. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, like there's a guy on TikTok named Theo Ash and another person named he goes by Elite Takes. These guys are pretty, you know, big influences on the football community as far as TikTok goes. They even have big Twitter followings too. I mean, I'm going through my timeline and I follow these guys. They're smart people, and they're praising Arthur Smith for what we're seeing on the field. And, you know, they draw up frustration for people like myself as, oh, we're just fantasy players. We're just sports bettors. And that's why we're getting annoyed. We don't understand that Arthur Smith is actually doing a good job. Bullshit. This is, forget the fantasy implications. Forget the money I lost because I bet on the Falcons for some reason. Forget all that. There gets to a point where you need to recognize that this man, despite what the stats may say, is not putting his quarterback in the best position to be successful, no matter how bad he is. He is still an NFL caliber quarterback. There are ways to put these guys in positions to be successful. No matter how bad Mariota looked tonight, there were opportunities where, I thought Arthur Smith could have helped the guy out a little bit more. And, maybe one day he will eventually decide that, maybe they're in the hunt right now for a playoff spot considering the NFC South. But, maybe Desmond Ridder could be, we could look to Desmond Ridder here just to see what we got in him. I mean, when is that going to happen? You draft Desmond Ridder. You haven't sit him behind Marcus Mariota, who's taken every offensive snap this season. When do you want to get a look at him? When do you decide, like, hey, look, we have this kid sitting here. We clearly have no hope. Like, let's be honest here. We have none, zero. Even if we made a playoff push and we took a wild card spot, we're getting stomped as the 7th seed by 45 points. I mean, there's got to be a point where you're realistic with yourself here. You don't have to throw the season down the drain. You don't have to make it obvious that you're tanking like the Raiders are right now. But, I don't think anybody would look at you sideways if you said, you know what, go ahead, Ridder. Let's see what you got. Because Marcus Mariota is, running around in circles like a chicken with his head cut off and throwing the ball up without any accuracy whatsoever right to the Panthers defense on a consistent basis. And Ridder's, sitting there with his hands on his shoulder pads waiting for an opportunity. But Arthur Smith is too stubborn to make a change. This dude is ranks right up there, one of the most stubborn human beings I've ever seen. One of the most stubborn humans. This guy, if he thinks what he's doing is right, he ain't gonna change shit. Raleigh says I'd say throw to Pittsburgh, and Marcus does say he throws way too high. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's just, a guy like Kyle Pitts, guys like Cordero Patterson. I mean, these are guys that, they're good after the catch. Like, they don't have to be getting the ball, up the boundary on a, how do I put this? A guy like Kyle Pitts, he might be 6'6", but he's quick. He's good after the catch. He's got a big catch radius as well, but he doesn't need to be getting the ball on a 45-yard, boundary shot on 1st and 10. He doesn't need that. Maybe a couple tight end screens, a couple quick drags, crossers, something. I mean, like I said, Kyle Pitts was open on a couple crossers tonight, and Mariota would just flat out miss him. I mean, this was probably the worst performance Mariota has had all year. But, I mean, not a single screen pass. You have Cordero Patterson in your backfield. I think Cordero Patterson on the screen pass should be, one of the most – it should be a staple play in this offense. Instead, on one of the first drives of the game, they ran I think it was like a fake screen to Patterson, and, they dumped it back to – I think it was Algier or Huntley, and Shaq Thompson read it the whole way, and he gets dropped for a loss of 4. I mean, there's a quarterback dilemma here. The guy's bad. He's bad. So the throws need to be quicker. You need to utilize the talent you have in space, get the ball to them quick, and let them do the work instead of relying on Mariota to sit in the pocket and withstand the pressure that's coming in him from his face and and crossing over the middle, man, I don't know, man. URL Jordan, nice to meet you, man. Happy to join. Not a Falcons fan at all, but saw the game tonight, looked up live stream to see what y'all was saying, and definitely need Ridder. And funny enough, Jordan, I'm not even a Falcons fan. I just came out. I just like to come on after primetime games and talk about my emotions toward them. But I think I'm talking from a Falcons fan's perspective. I mean, I think most Falcons fans would be echoing the similar sentiments. I just don't know what it's going to take for Arthur Smith to flick a switch in his mind and say, you know what, it's Ridder time, at least to see what Ridder has to offer. Mariota was doing somersaults on the turf and throwing the ball up in the air for the fun of it. Legit. I mean, it's just, I was going back to my point. I think Arthur Smith is one of the most stubborn motherfuckers ever. Like, this guy he doesn't change. He doesn't alter. He doesn't change anything. He was getting destroyed by the Bengals 4 weeks ago, and they still ran the ball being down by 25 points. They ran the ball an excessive amount of times. I don't know if you guys remember that, but my God, they're getting stomped by the Bengals. Stomped. And Arthur Smith is coming out, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. This guy needs a reality check, man, and I don't care. DVOA, EPA, throw it out the window. Arthur Smith is an anomaly. This guy is an anomaly. Atlanta season's done. FSA Ridder. Yeah, I agree, man. And that's the thing too. It's like you have Desmond Ridder. By the time the season, comes to a close, and you haven't given Ridder a chance, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, now what? Do we use Marcus Mariota again? Do we look for another starting veteran quarterback we don't know what we have in Ritter here. You have to eventually figure out what Ritter is. The Tennessee Titans, by force, of course, had to throw in Malik Willis, and he's shown flashes. He looked like a raw rookie out of Liberty when he stepped in. Let's be honest, but he had opportunities and he made some plays, and it showed promise. You have Desmond Ritter. You need to at least give him that opportunity so you know what you at least have back there, so that when the season comes to an end and you're sitting there thinking, what's next for the quarterback position? You're not sitting there thinking, what do we do? Because you have a veteran that's clearly not cut out, and a kid coming out of his rookie year that you didn't even get a chance to see. You need to give him a chance. Man, I thought Ritter was hurt. That's why we haven't seen him, because, he's not a rookie. Because why not? He's a rookie and Marcus is washed up. Yeah, he is washed up to say the least. I don't think Ritter's hurt. Is Ritter hurt? I don't think so. Desmond Ritter injury. I don't think Ritter is hurt. Was he dressed today? Yeah, no, I think Ritter's good. As far as I'm concerned, I think Ritter's good. But I guess that would make sense. But honestly, I think Ritter's fine, because I saw a lot of people saying the same kind of thing, and I don't think that would have been the talk of the town if Ritter was actually injured. But interesting. Yes, that's Matt Corral, I believe, is his name, who's injured. And plus, Atlanta running back Hard AF, he showed that. Yeah, I know he definitely did. All of the Falcons running backs, I think they're talented. I think Cordero Patterson's definitely head over heels the best one. But Tyler Allgeier's not a bad second option, but he shouldn't be out touching a guy like Patterson, who is as dynamic, through the air and on the ground. I thought Deonta Foreman, however the hell you say his name. Deonta Foreman's the best backup running back. Well, not a starter, but the best backup to become starter running back in the NFL. Last year, he stepped in for Henry when he got hurt, and bro was running just as hard as Henry was. The dude looked like Derrick Henry, all these version back there, and he was doing a damn good job. And now this season, Christian McCaffrey gets shipped out, and Deonta Foreman is, he's probably running better than McCaffrey was, if I'm being honest, in terms of, effectiveness, yards after contact. The Panthers' run game looks better than it did before. Deonta Foreman was the best player on the field in this game, at least from a performance standpoint, by a mile. He played well, and that's what the Panthers did in this game that the Falcons didn't and never do. They continued to give the ball to Foreman, who was ripping them to shreds on the ground. The Panthers were winning the game in the trenches all night. Let's be clear here. But Foreman was, they weren't rotating the backs that often. Blackshear and Hubbard were coming in to change the pace up a bit to give Foreman a breath. But, Foreman would come right back in, and he'd carry the ball 4 or 5 straight times, and he would continuously gain yards. Because why? He's their best player right now. He's the most effective. Why wouldn't they keep giving the ball to him? It's common sense. That's something I think Arthur Smith really struggles with. Yeah, I kind of figured, Jordan, you were talking about the Panthers running back being Foreman when you did mention your last comment. But yeah, Foreman was outstanding tonight. I had him on a couple of fantasy teams, so that was a saving grace for my sanity. But he played very well. I'm happy that he's getting another opportunity, and maybe sooner than later he'll actually get a somewhat starting type gig, somewhere, on a team like. I think the Indianapolis Colts could have used a guy like Foreman to step in for Jonathan Taylor with his injuries. That would have been a perfect. Oh, why am I burping? Excuse me. I think Foreman would have been perfect for the type of physicality that the Colts typically run with, just in general, anywhere for Foreman. I really like the kid, and I think he deserves more of an opportunity than he gets. He's being buried behind these top running backs. I think he's more than capable of being a starter in this league, the way he runs that damn ball. So yeah, good for him. What else can we touch on real quick? Former Buffalo Bill, though, Raleigh, on another note, we saw Raheem Blackshear. I did kind of touch on it. Blackshear, he ran hard. We saw a little bit of Raheem Blackshear tonight. It seems like the Panthers really like him, and he's running well. He 6 for 32, 5.3 yards per carry. He had a good He had a good night. Um, Foreman, oh my God, Foreman went 31 for 130 for 4.2 and a touchdown. Wow, what a night! What a night for Foreman. Jordan says, "And they have London." Uh, yeah, no, I think London is good. I think London's excellent, man. He was the first wide receiver taken off the board this season, in this past draft. Tall, physical receiver, great hands, very good hands. Knows how to win at the point of attack. Um, dude is solid. It's just another guy that they need to work to his strengths and get the ball in his hands more often. The guy torched the Rams. The dude torched the Rams when they played against them in week 2 or 3. Drake London went nuts and he kind of broke on the scene and everybody, turned their head toward him. And ever since then, they're like, you know what? It's not important to get the ball in a guy like this's hands. We're not going to try to get the ball to him often. We're just going to run the ball 45 times a game and hope for the best. Yeah, sounds like a good plan. Yeah, I know. I remember Blackshear like 2 weeks ago. I heard his name for Carolina, and I was like, is he really getting run over there? Because McCaffrey's obviously been gone, so now he's getting some work. And tonight he looked good. Blackshear looked good, to his credit. Kind of the Antonio Williams 2.0. The way it felt. Prior to the year beginning, the whole training camp battles, everybody was talking about Blackshear, all falling in love with Raheem. It felt like the Antonio Williams situation all over again. And except the difference is Blackshear's gone on to another team and actually make a noticeable impact in a real game. Antonio Williams did it a couple times, but I think Blackshear's kind of carving out a nice role for himself on a bad team. But good for him. Good for him. Need to work to his strength by trading Gibson. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just London needs to. I don't know. I would want to get out of Atlanta so fast if I was Kyle Pitts or Drake London. I mean, that's the crazy thing too is Arthur Smith last year. Granted, it was Matt Ryan in comparison to Marcus Mariota, but I mean, Arthur Smith was the head coach watching Kyle Pitts go for over 1,000. Like this was his offense that he watched Kyle Pitts go wild in, and he just acts like he didn't see it happen. He acts like he wasn't the one that had that offense on the field. Like I don't know. You would think he would just make a more conceited effort to work with the guy because it's just such a wasted talent. He would be in a 1,300-yard receiver on a team that passed every play. I mean, could you hypothetically imagine Kyle Pitts with Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? I mean, any of these upper echelon quarterbacks. Could you imagine how many yards Kyle Pitts would have? The dude's near unguardable, man. Like he in one-on-one, the guy is a matchup nightmare for everybody. He's fast, tall. He's got next to like T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins. He's got I think one of the biggest catch radiuses in the league. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous, man. Raleigh says, I was at the Bills-Falcons game last year, and even the team was a decent team that put up a fight against us, but you can see the difference between Matt Ryan and Marcus Mariota. Yeah, I remember that game. That was when Marcus Mariota got in the end zone and celebrated a little bit excessively and then got a penalty for it, and then he didn't end up being in the end zone, and then we sacked him or something. That was funny. But yeah, I mean, the Falcons, I thought were a better team last year than they are this year. At least the way they operated, I thought they were a better team, genuinely. And I made a video briefly about it on TikTok saying that I think the Falcons actually have a chance of making the postseason prior to their run last year getting shot down. But, there was a spell of games where they were competing with teams they probably shouldn't, and winning a couple games that they probably shouldn't. And I thought they had a chance to snag a wild card spot in a much more competitive NFC, I will add. But now it's like they're just a struggling team in a bad conference, and we're seeing the results of it. And Matt Ryan, granted, is much different than Mariota. Still, I mean, Arthur Smith acts like he didn't see what he saw last year. Remarkable, I may add. Tonight I had. You guys want to know what my parlay was for tonight? Why I'm so salty about it? Here, I'll explain to you why I'm so salty about the disaster that we saw. Hold on, I gotta log in. So I had tonight on Thursday Night Football, because they do give you a nice free parlay bullshit. Um, I had for my free parlay, where is it? I had Kyle Pitts. It was very simple, very straightforward. It followed what I thought would be the game script. Um, you know, it was simple. Kyle Pitts for over 25 passing yards or receiving yards. I'm sorry. Down to Foreman over 56.5 rushing yards, and Cordero Patterson over 55.5 rushing yards. I thought that was as simple as can be, straightforward. Both top running backs in a game that was going to be windy, rainy. Two teams that have been running the ball well this season, with two quarterbacks that are not good. Kyle Pitts is a top pass catcher, so he's bound to get at least 25 yards, which he barely got. But Cordero Patterson's just not getting touches on the ground after last week having 2 touchdowns and 13 carries. This week he gets 5 against the Panthers, who just gave up 4 touchdowns to Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon. He's not good. Don't get me started on Joe Mixon. So, yeah, I lost that. I lost a couple others just because I had a lot of other bullshit sprinkled around. But, yeah, just not fun. Not fun at all. I forgot they had Pitts. I'm sure he coasting the Megatron. Yeah, I mean, Pitts is ridiculous. Pitts is a physical freak of nature that needs to be abused in every single sort of fashion possible for that football team, and he's not. He should be getting the ball. Kyle Pitts should be getting like 14 to 15 looks a game, like legit. Oh, you want me to go on my Joe Mixon rant? Oh, don't even get me started. I went on a Joe Mixon rant after the Bengals played on primetime against the Browns. I went on a whole Joe Mixon rant about how bad he is. And of course, after that game, what does Joe Mixon do the following week? 5 touchdowns. I am a curse. I am a curse. Whatever I say, the opposite happens every time. I go out and say Joe Mixon's terrible. Dude can't break a tackle. He averages worst yard per carry numbers in the league. And then a week later, 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. Like, it couldn't have been 2 or 3. This guy pies me in the face. 5. Honestly, let's pull it up. I want to see if I can find the rant of me going wild about Joe Mixon, because I don't have the energy to reiterate just my emotion toward this human being. Oh, my God. He's not good. Like, he's not. I had all the numbers pulled up. Okay, here we go. I'm going to see if I can find this real quick. Talk crap about Gabe Davis then, please. Oh, you want me to talk crap about Gabe Davis? I will gladly talk crap about Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis. Oh, boy. Gabe Davis. You want to talk about Gabe Davis? Okay, fine. I'll get to that in a second, too. Okay, I have the live stream pulled up. Here we go. Oh, my God, I actually ripped into this poor guy. Nah, Mixon ain't good, bro. I'm telling you. All right, hold on. Do I want to do all that right now? I don't. I kind of don't. Long story short, Jordan, Joe Mixon averages some of the worst yard per carry numbers in the NFL. He averages some of the worst yards after contact numbers in the league. The dude has had, upwards of the most, inside the 5 touches in the NFL. And prior to his 5 touchdown explosion, he was, he had like 2 touchdowns on the year inside the 5-yard line when he was like the league leader in touches inside the 5. He can't break away from anybody in open space. I can't talk about Joe Mixon. You're going to get me riled up. I want to talk about Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis needs to step up, man. If we're going to talk about the Bills, Gabe Davis needs to be the center of conversation. We're at a point where we need playmakers to step up. We went into this year assuming that next to Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and Gabe Davis, and Isaiah McKenzie, and Jamison Crowder, and a little bit of Khalil Shakir would all supplement for the second pass-catching role on this team. And none of them have done that. Dawson Knox has seemingly disappeared. I think Raleigh, we were having the conversation about it, man. I think it was you and I, talking about whether or not it was the system that holds Dawson Knox back, or if it's just Dawson Knox's personal situation or what. Um, but yeah, I mean, Dawson Knox has been near invisible for one reason or another. Isaiah McKenzie, which I was preaching during the offseason, is not that guy. He's not. The dude hasn't seen more than 40 targets in a single season in his whole career, and we were expecting him to take over the slot receiver position. That was a bit extreme. Bad. So, he's out, and then Jamison Crowder, suffered that foot injury. Khalil Shakir's looked good. It's kind of confusing why he hasn't seen more run, but he's not obviously made much of an impact where it's been most important. And then there's Gabe Davis, who, we've preached could be that solid number 2 option. He's supposed to be one of the better number 2 options in this league. But, when we've needed him most, this year at least, he's vanished, man. I mean, this past week against the Jets, that we needed him. The first half, it was all Josh to Steph, and, they got the job done. But Robert Saleh wasn't going to let that happen for all 4 quarters. Robert Saleh made the adjustments in the second half necessary to shut down Stephon Diggs and virtually remove him from the game. And, that leaves Gabe Davis for the opportunity to shine, and he just could not create separation. He wasn't, playing to his physicality, wasn't making catches that he should. Of course, that final deep ball on that 4th and 21 that Josh put in the breadbasket, it would have been a tough catch to make. But, considering the standards that I think we hold Gabe Davis to at this point, I think it's safe to say that the catch he needs to have. That would have been a play where, Gabe Davis came up clutch in that divisional game against the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. But, if Gabe Davis really wants to solidify himself as one of the better deep threats in the NFL, one of the better second options, if he wants to be put next to Stephon Diggs and be considered one of the top duos in this league, that catch against the Jets would have been kind of the nail in the coffin on that conversation if he would have been able to come down with that ball. It really would have shown everybody, like, hey, look, this was a big moment in the game, against the best corner, who I think would be the best corner in the game right now, or the top 3 in Sauce Gardner, and you go up and you outmuscle the kid, and you come down with that ball in a big spot to save your team's hopes. That's the nail in the coffin. There's no ifs, ands, buts about who Gabe Davis is, but instead he's just invisible for 4 quarters, and he can't come up big in a spot where we really need him the most. So, like I said, Raleigh, we've talked about it, but, OBJ is becoming OBJ is becoming more than just a luxury. OBJ is becoming a need for this football team, because we need somebody else that can help step out. Stephon Diggs is a pass catcher. Yeah, I mean, it's just that's just the facts of it. I put it very nicely in a nice metaphor. What did I say? I said OBJ is no longer, this offense is a Lamborghini, and OBJ is no longer a hood ornament accessory added to the car. I mean, I think OBJ at this point would be an upgrade to the engine, would be new tires, new wheels. OBJ would be a substantial upgrade to this Lamborghini that clearly is having some performance issues offensively, and would, I think, push us over the hump to compete with some of the other cars that are racing at some high speeds. Andrew, what's going on, man? Breaking news. Yeah, this is funny because I saw after the game, Baker Mayfield. Andrew, how you doing, man? It's awesome to see you. After the game, Baker Mayfield, this dude's down. He's down as bad as you can get. Former number 1 overall pick, backing up behind what was that team's 4th-string quarterback coming out of the XFL. And the team beats the Atlanta Falcons, and the guy's going through the handshake line, headbutting his teammates without a helmet on after a win against the Falcons. I mean, I get he's hyped, but, it's just funny. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're headbutting your teammates without a helmet on. That's one way to go into concussion protocol. That's funny. So did that one catch change your whole opinion? It was a non-catch. Gabe Davis, couldn't come down with the ball that, would have been would have been, game changing, man. And, those are moments that you want your guys to step up in. And if Gabe Davis wants to be considered that guy, those are moments you need to shine in. I mean, it's as simple as that. Pablo, what's going on, man? Nice to see you in here. That's why he is the fourth. That's why he's the back to the fourth string. Yeah, literally. Raleigh, did you see the video? He literally was going through like handshaking his teammates, and obviously the dude is short as shit, and he's jumping up and headbutting his teammates in the head without a helmet on. What are you doing? What are you doing, Baker? Talk about the biggest fall off of all time. Oh, poor guy. That guy. Talk about Baker Mayfield, man. I thought the Browns did him dirty, but my lord, he's not done himself any favors at all. I didn't see it, but I'm not surprised. Hold on. This is worthy of watching. This is worthy of checking out real quick, because it was just like, what are you doing, Baker? Have some common sense. The guy is acting like he's freaking 19 at a high school game. Okay, here we go. Hold on. One more time. Okay. Is it sharing? Okay, now it is. Look at this. What are you doing? What are you doing? Look at this guy. What are you doing? Come on. Like, you got to be smarter than that. What? I mean, he's going with his head. That hurts. That has to hurt. What are you doing? What are you doing? Good God. Dude's a nutcase. Pablo's got a question. Are the Panthers going for a quarterback in next year's draft? If the Panthers have a pick that allows them to take a quarterback that's worthy of the selection, then yeah. But the Panthers, we were talking about it earlier, after today, have the 5th overall selection at 3 and 7. And given the big board for given the big board for next year's draft, there's the Bryce Young, and then who's the other? Hold on, let me look at the 2023 big board. I'm not good with drafts. I'm going to be honest with you. Let's see the big board. So Will Anderson, CJ Stroud's the other kid. So there's 2 quarterbacks that are at the top of this draft class, Pablo, and it's Bryce Young and it's CJ Stroud. I think these are 2 guys that go in the top 4. I guess it depends who's got those picks, but I think the top 4 of these 2 guys both go in. It's not going to be like the 2022 NFL draft where not a single quarterback's taken until like the 20th overall pick. Like, this is going to be, the top talent is going to be at the quarterback position. So Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are going to be going quick. And if the Panthers keep winning useless football games, they're going to continuously drive themselves into a pit of mediocrity and not be able to climb out of it, because they turned down 3 first-round picks at the trade deadline for cornerstone pieces in which aren't even going to help them. I'm sorry, but Brian Burns is not good enough to keep over 2 first-round picks. DJ Moore for a first-round pick would have been fine. They need to do those transactions. So Pablo, it all depends where they end up. I could see them, like I said, I have to look at the big board because I'm not really sure. There's other wide receivers here, defensive linemen. I don't know. If CJ Stroud or Bryce Young are there for the Panthers, I think they 100,000% take them, of course. But there's no guarantee they have a selection in which allows them to do that. And if the Texans are up there, of course, they're probably going to be. Vegas could be up there. Detroit, these teams are going to be in that conversation. They all need quarterbacks, or could need quarterbacks by that time. Those guys will be definitely gone. So the Panthers ain't helping themselves right now. Raleigh says it's sad how Baker's become, or he was. But my God, use your head or don't this or don't. Yeah, exactly. Andrew says, "Hey, mouse, click." Oh, my StreamYard's breaking. That's excellent. Oh, what just happened? Hello? Oh, my StreamYard's just freezing. Okay, here we go. Andrew says, honestly, Falcons fans should be happy they lost because the more wins Carolina gets, the worst QB. Exactly. Yeah, I know. Like I was just saying, the Panthers are just driving themselves deeper into the hole of darkness. I mean, the Panthers are screwing themselves by winning these useless games. Yeah, and you're probably right. The real losers in Thursday Night Football was, the Panthers, 100,000%. I lost because I lost money betting on a player rostered by Arthur Smith. The Falcons lost the game, and the Carolina Panthers lost because they garnered a win, in which is going to drive them further away from getting two of the top quarterback prospects in next year's draft. So, really, not a single win anywhere. I think Houston is getting young. Yeah, it seems like that's the way things are trending. Davis Mills, they gave him a shot this year. Not really it, which I think a lot of people could have predicted, but I give him credit for trying, right? But it seems like Bryce Young is going to be the consensus QB1 in this class. And it seems like Houston, with one victory through 9 weeks, is well on their way to getting that spot. I mean, if they win a second game, right now the only other teams with 2 wins are the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Lions. All have 2 wins. The Raiders are not going to finish with just 2 wins. The Steelers, I don't think, are going to finish with just 2 wins. And the Lions could. But, I think Houston is probably guaranteed a top 3 pick. Top 3 pick, I would say Houston is. And I think the likelihood of it being the number 1 overall selection is higher than it is for anyone else. The real loser is Amazon paying for $78 million to air such a shitter. Yeah, for real. That's the truth. That's the truth. Another big loser. I cannot believe Jeff Bezos is just fine with the fact that the NFL has handed him the worst 18-week slate of Thursday Night Football games I've ever seen. I mean, week after week, they're consistent dog shit. I admire how consistently bad these games are. If I was Jeff Bezos, I was talking about it at the very beginning of the stream. There is no way the numbers for Thursday Night Football compete to Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football or any of the games in the 1 o'clock window, any of the games in the 4:25 window. No way the ratings compete. There's just zero chance. And, if I was Jeff, I mean, granted, Jeff has a bajillion dollars. He probably doesn't give a shit. But, you paid X amount of dollars to own this night of the NFL. And, you want these games to be good. You want to have the best product being displayed under your name possible. And just somehow they're all so bad. I mean, the Colts-Broncos Thursday night game, that game was terrible, but it was bad where it was fun. It was just so bad to a point where it was fun. I enjoyed that game because of how bad it was. And then it ended up, ending in exciting fashion. Tonight was just straight frustration and terrible football from both teams. PJ Walker was throwing into double coverage consistently. PJ Walker almost threw the game away when he was trying to throw to DJ Moore because he didn't see a safety breaking down on the route. And he threw it right into the hands of the Falcon safety, and he luckily dropped it. He would have had 6 points. PJ Walker was straight garbage. Obviously, Marcus Mariota, we talked about it. He was straight garbage too. The dude was doing somersaults, throwing the ball up in the air, getting picked off. He was obviously terrible. I would be mad. I could not agree more. Pablo says Houston is playing hard, but they keep on losing. They'll probably beat the Jaguars again. I don't think they'll beat the Jaguars again. I don't think so. I would be shocked. Let's see what the remainder of the schedule looks like for the Houston Texans. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh, man. I have a very stuffed nose. My computer's just not cooperating right now. It's excellent. Yeah, I don't think the Jaguars get swept by the Texans this season. That would be shocking considering the way they've been playing. Hold on. Why? Okay, here we go. Schedule for the Houston Texans. They're 1-6-1 at the moment. Next week, they get the Giants, who I think they lose to. The following week, they get the Commanders. That game they have a chance in. Then they get the Dolphins. No. Browns, no. Dallas, no. Kansas City, no. Tennessee, no. Jacksonville not getting swept. And Indianapolis again. So I think at most, the Texans could end up with 2 more wins maybe if they're lucky. So that would put them at 3 on the year, and I think that would safely secure the number 1 overall pick. I mean, they are playing hard to your point. They're playing hard, but hard work doesn't always beat talent and hard work combined. Evan, how are you, man? I think players feel out of rhythm on Thursday night. We usually play games at 1 p.m. It's coming off a short week. Evan, you have a Cordero Patterson profile picture. I'm not a Falcons fan. I'm just airing my grievances because I bet money on Arthur Smith's players, and I was dumb enough to do so. Evan, I want your opinion on Arthur Smith. Do you think he's a good head coach? Do you think he puts the team in the best spot to win? Do you think he puts his players in successful positions to do their best? I want to know your opinion, Evan, if you're a Falcons fan, based on my prediction. Andrew says, wait, is Baker injured? Is that why? No, Baker's fine. Baker stepped in for P.J. Walker after he had 3 completions for 18 yards after 1 half of football last week. Baker's fine. They're just starting P.J. Walker because that's how bad Baker is, or at least that's how bad they think Baker is. Bad, right? That's terrible. Former number 1 overall selection, ladies and gentlemen. Houston has beaten the Jaguars 9 straight times. That's an interesting stat. That's like the Jaguars beating the Colts like 9 straight times or whatever that stupid stat was. But yeah, man, there's no way. There's no way the Jags get swept. I'm not buying it. No way. Bills Mafia, baby. Bills Mafia, baby. Damn, so an injured ego. Yeah, pretty much. He's an injured ego. He's going to have an injured ego. He's going to be in concussion protocol. Loser. He's a loser. Evan, let's see. I think Arthur Smith, he means as in he's talking about Arthur Smith. I think he is in a situation where he just plays with what he has. We are like 75% 1-year deals. He entered the job in cap space hell. It's going to be a year or two before it's really his team with, I don't know if he's finishing a statement or not, but I mean, I get his point. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I thought he did a good job last year. Arthur Smith, I thought did a very formidable job last year. Matt Ryan, good night, Pablo. Nice to see you in here, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, you do the same. Last year, I thought Arthur Smith did a formidable job. He had Matt Ryan, the age-old dinosaur, behind that skeleton of an offensive line, and he only had Kyle Pitts to throw to. I mean, he had Russell Gage, but whatever. I mean, it was just Kyle Pitts because Calvin Ridley got ousted. Cordero Patterson was back there too, but that defense was even worse. And, they were in a position to potentially take a wild card spot at one point last year, similar to how they are now, honestly. In a better NFC. I don't know. I'm just confused, man. It seems like a night and day difference between what he's been doing this year to last year. From an outside perspective, I don't follow the Falcons to a T. I don't watch them every week. And, I don't break down their film. I just don't give enough of a shit. Like, to be perfectly honest. But I just feel like there's just something wrong internally with the way they're operating, and they're not putting their players in the best successful positions to win. And that's just my takeaway from it. We have $77 million in dead cap. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of teams. Matt Ryan contributing to that, unfortunately, but there's a lot of teams that are dealing with a lot of dead cap right now. I think the Giants are dealing with a bit of dead cap. I mean, Kenny Galladay's on the roster, but the dude is pretty much dead cap at this point. Man, who are a couple other teams dealing with a lot of dead cap right now? A lot of dead money. There's a couple others that come to mind, but you do make a good point. He's only been there 2 years. He took the team over, and like we were just saying, he did a decent job last year. So he I'm not calling for him to be fired. Like I said, I don't care enough. He's not done that bad of a job. The team's in a wild card contention spot somehow right now, but man, it's just so frustrating to watch. Saints, yeah, that's I don't know how that didn't even come into my mind. The Saints are absolutely in cap hell, man. Yeah. They don't even have a first rounder this year. I can't believe. I thought they were going to deal Kamara at the deadline for a first, but it didn't seem like they could find a partner. Oh my God, my allergies. But yeah, the Saints are in. Poor Dennis Allen, man. Poor Dennis Allen. I do agree that his play. It's like his play calling, but it's just like, why is Kyle? I mean, I would be throwing Kyle Pitts, you know, screen passes or bubble screen. Well, that falls under the same umbrella, but some sort of screen passes or underneath routes to get him open in space. Just something to get him open, or Drake London included, get Cordero Patterson in space. I don't know. It's just odd. I mean, Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley, all these guys are stealing touches from your best back. I get he's coming out of an injury, but he had 13 touches last week, 13 rushes. He probably had more touches overall. And this week, it's just like Cordero Patterson's a change of pace guy. It just doesn't make sense. Raleigh says, so I simmed on Madden Vikings versus Bills with no Josh and we lose, but we figure out our run game. So, hey, if that happens, I wouldn't be upset. Interesting. I just don't think we – on that note, the Buffalo Bills are one of the few upper echelon teams that I think without their quarterback are pretty much stranded. I think whatever. I think if the Philadelphia Eagles hypothetically lost Jalen Hurts and whoever, Gardner Minshew had to step in if that's their backup, if I'm not mistaken, I think they'd be fine. Because of how good they win in the trenches. Their defense is very solid. The run game is good. They have all the weapons. They'd be fine. I think the Chiefs, of course, Patrick Mahomes is the wheel that keeps the motorbike spinning, right? But I guess if Mahomes went down, I guess I can't say that this year because they don't have Tyreek anymore. So I guess I'll take that statement back. I don't know. I just, with the Bills, with the lack of weapons that are stepping up and the inefficient run game, Josh Allen does so much for this football team that if he got hurt, or if he is hurt for an extended period of time, I don't think we're figuring out our run game. I don't know how we get the ball to our playmakers often. Stephon Diggs is going to get blanketed, beyond belief by every single defensive back that we go up against, and we'd have a really hard time if Josh was out this week. But it'd be interesting because I don't think the Vikings are the most dominant 7-1 team. They haven't proven much to me yet, so I'm not worried about the Vikings. Healthy or even unhealthy. Truthfully, I think there is a world out there in which says the Buffalo Bills win this game even without Josh Allen. As crazy as that may sound, just in combination with the chaotic season that has been 2022, with the Case Keenum revenge game, just all these stupid narratives, and the Vikings not looking good this year, at least as good as a 7-1 team would typically look. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game. I think Josh plays, though, from an uneducated, uninformed standpoint, aside from what we've gotten from a media outlook. I think Josh plays this week. Keenan throws 2 to 3 picks. I think he did not look great. He had his lows. He had some highs, but he also had some lows, to say the least. But it's better than turning to Matt Barkley, which was our option a couple of years ago. So it's a lot better than that. Oh, man, was it 12:30? All right. I think I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. It's 12:30. But yeah, it's another very fun and successful post prime time live stream. It's fun to be able to talk about different teams. I always enjoy talking about the NFL in general, and you sprinkle in the Bills talk here and there. But it's always been a blast, guys, and I appreciate anybody that stopped in and dropped a like and just said hello down in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys. Definitely going to keep these live streams going because I've been having a really good time with them. So be sure you're sticking around. Check out all the socials. I have all my social media somewhere on my YouTube. My Twitter's on my YouTube banner. You can go find it somewhere. I don't have it linked in the description because I'm lazy. But the Caveman on pretty much every platform if you're interested in following me. So I appreciate you guys stopping in. Have a fantastic Thursday night. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, and go Bills. Good night, guys.